The Japanese developer Nihon Falcom's president has actually made a public statement in an interview with TechRaptor, basically saying, hey, we'd like to see our games on PC, and there's actually nothing holding us back aside from the fact that we have a small studio, which means they have to rely on third parties, and it gets a little bit complicated when you try to translate games and release them on PC. But most notably, they were talking about Steam, and they kind of want to release things onto Steam, and they were actually very surprised that a lot of their older games were actually selling quite well, which seems to be a common theme with Japanese developers. I don't know why everyone thinks that PC isn't a platform that people buy games on, but yeah, we kind of buy a lot of them. Michael here with another topic video. Now, this is actually quite interesting because we've been seeing Japanese developers be saying this for a while now. It's actually been a few years, and we've seen a huge, giant market growth with that. I remember the Senran Kagura series is actually one of the first Japanese sort of series I saw come over to Steam. And I'm like, oh, hey, that used to be console exclusive. In fact, it used to be handheld exclusive. But then they're like, hey, you know what? Let's actually release it on PC. And they actually had some staggering results. Now, the game is obviously niche, as most of these Japanese games are. They're going to be kind of talking about this. But at the same time, they are games that are worth being on PC. And they've actually found a lot of success in doing so. Nihon Falcom, however, is actually a developer that has already been releasing games on PC. For example, the Trails of Heroes series, or Trials of Heroes. Is it Trials of Heroes or Trails of Heroes? I always get it wrong, and I don't know why. I love the series, but at the same time, I don't play them a lot because they're really, really long, like classic JRPGs. They're really good games, and they've actually been historically on PC at launch. And the YS series, for example, is also been on PC. However, they ended up becoming more of a console developer as the Japanese market definitely shifted towards that, and their sales have always been a little bit better in Japan on consoles, because that's just how the Japanese market works, which is why most of these developers and publishers don't really think about PC as a giant selling point. They're like, oh yeah, whatever, we'll release it on PC sort of eventually or whatever, and then they realize like, oh my god, these actually get sales. And it's not only short-term sales, it's long-term sales as well, and they've actually noticed this. Nihon Falcom has noticed with their older titles, they're like, hey, all our old games are actually selling extremely well. Oh, there's a puzzle in this room. I'm going to go ahead and ignore that for now because I'm trying to do a video and I don't want to stop and think for a minute. And so they're like, oh yeah, all these old games, like they released Trails of Heroes, and I'm like, oh my god, yes, I never got to play this, and so I immediately bought it. And that's kind of like how it ends up going on the PC platform. There's a lot of older games that end up doing very, very well. And Nihon Falcom has quite a few older titles that they're not, have released yet on PC. And so basically, that's kind of confirmation that we're going to be getting those. And that's fantastic. There's some dungeon crawlers and there's some JRPGs that I'm really, really excited to see from them. And so that's going to be super, super cool. So yes, I am making this video a little bit because I am a little bit excited, but it's also a good sort of validation point to where the PC market is going and where the market in general is going, because these games, while they're not selling amazingly well, which one is my lifesteal one? That one. There we go. While these games don't sell extremely well because they are niche titles, they actually sell quite a decent amount, and a third of the sales that have been on Steam has been what their console sales would have been on. They're actually, like Nihon Falcom, for example, is making games for the PlayStation Vita, which has basically got no user base anymore, which is a little bit unfortunate. A lot of people like the Vita, but at the same time, they're not really getting a lot of sales to begin with, so if they start releasing on PC, not only do they solidify their future of sales, but they also make it so that their games are available to a lot more people and can actually start leading to a lot more initial sales. And the sale release of, Trails of the Heroes, hopefully I'm saying that right, the new one that's coming out on PS4 and everything, is getting a PC release simultaneously, and there's another game that's another Xanadu game, although it's in the same universe, it's not actually has any relevance to it whatsoever, but basically that one's going to have a simultaneous release on PC. Obviously, there can be delays, but this is the first time that I've actually seen a Japanese developer looking at this and being like, hey, we're going to release on PC, not just releasing on PC, but releasing it at the same time as the other consoles, which is actually a really big deal as well. And the more Japanese publishers that we end up seeing doing this, the actual better off they're going to be, because if they actually make a giant consumer base on PC, that's going to grow exponentially. Old games do kind of fade off on the radar a little bit on a lot of people's kind of schedule. And when you're going into the non-niche players, for example, let's say the common market that's going to be buying a lot of these games kind of off the whim and don't actually already follow it, you kind of want that initial sale. They could end up looking at games and be like, oh, well, they have this on PS4 or whatever, but I only have PC and I want to play it. In 5 months down the line, they're not going to care that it released on PC, a lot of these common folk anyways. And so they're going to be like, whatever. And I called them common folk. I don't mean that in an offensive term. And so basically, yeah, that's going to, affect your sales on PC. But if you release it at the same time, I know that some people like to give the idea of like, oh, well, they want to get console sales first because they'll just buy it on PC if it's on PC. That's not actually true. And there's actually no evidence backing that up, except for some rare occasions. And I think that's mostly down to things like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. There was the whole Grand Theft Auto thing that ended up happening as well. By the way, in the background, I have absolutely no clue where I'm going, so I'm just kind of roaming around. and attacking things and hoping that I find the right direction eventually. It's been a while since I played, so I'm kind of lost. But yeah, it's going to be really, really cool to actually see that, and I'm really, really excited to see where that ends up leading in the future, and I hope it ends up setting up an example. They are working with a lot of different publishers and a lot of different translators and things to actually get games, so we could end up seeing games that maybe weren't translated to begin with. I know some of their newer titles are going to release in Japanese audio only, which has been a popular thing as well. One of the games that I'm still currently playing through is Knights of Azure, which was, once again, another niche title. It's not particularly great, but it's kind of nice that it's on PC and everything. It's one of those games that only has Japanese audio because, once again, it is a niche title. They don't have huge expectations for sales on these things, and so they can't actually afford the whole English voice acting. However, the game is fully translated and not translated terribly as well, which is kind of nice. And that's something that, we didn't get on console. And so it's nice to actually see all this sort of stuff going forward. Now, one thing that I am really, really, really excited for, however, is to actually see this kind of push the entire Japanese market forward and actually push a lot of these niche titles onto PC as well. Because there's a lot of games I was looking up recently to where basically they worked on the PS3 emulator or whatever, and they were getting it to work properly with Demon Souls, which was another topic video I was going to do, but I ended up not doing it because the emulator's talking. I thought it was kind of boring because it turns out it doesn't really work that well. But regardless, there's a lot of niche titles I realized on the PS3 because I was looking back at the PS3 catalog and being like, what games would I actually play from this era? And none of the kind of AAA games are games that I'm interested in. There's maybe Puyo Pop Tetris, which is still kind of niche, but that's a game maybe that I would end up looking at. But for the most part, a lot of those games, those AAA games, are uninteresting. However, there's the small niche titles that just kind of released on a console out of nowhere and then ended up not going anywhere else. And those are the games that I want to see on PC the most. And I think that's where they'll end up succeeding the most as well. These are games that are going to release on PC, show it to a market that has never seen it before, and show it to a market that could have never seen it before. What item is it? Hold on. I think it's the lens. Once again, it's been a while since I played, so I'm trying to learn the puzzles again. I apologize. And I think that would be great. Like Puyo Pop Tetris, I think would do really, really well on PC because we don't have a Puyo Pop on PC. And Puyo Pop Tetris is a fantastic game from what I've seen. And I would love to play it, but I don't actually have a console to play it. And so basically I'll never end up getting the chance. But they released it on PC, they'd have people like me definitely jumping over it. There are Puyo Pop style games on PC that have actually done really, really well. I actually covered one of them on this channel called Raining Drops, I believe. Something along those lines. It was fairly decent. It's actually still getting updates, and I actually haven't gone back to it in a while. I'm actually working on a showcase video for it, hopefully soon, to kind of show off the updates and stuff. But they actually have a lot of updates into it, and it's actually a fairly decent game, and it's really, really fun. And that kind of genre, once again, isn't something that's on the PC very often. And so it would be nice to be able to see this sort of genres kind of popping up out of nowhere. JRPGs, for example, there's a lot of great old JRPGs I would love to see. I would love to be able to play through Magna Carta again, which I know people are going to hate me for that because it's like Magna Carta. But at the same time, I would love to play through those games again. And it's kind of nostalgic as well. Like I've been going through, I always kind of run through emulators and things like that. For example, on Dolphin, things like that. I actually run through Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on the channel. And so, yeah, I just love to play through those old games because they are sort of niche. And there's a lot of kind of smaller games that people can end up missing. Piano 3 is a perfect example that was on the GameCube. I'd love to see that released back on PC because it was a really weird sort of action game, and it was actually really, really cool and unique. And I would love to see that. And it's not a great, like, amazing game. It's not something that's going to be, like, outstanding or anything. But still, I think it would find a market. And that's one of the most important things about the PC market that I feel like a lot of these developers need to end up seeing, and especially the publishers, is that the PC market is not one specific market, and it doesn't have a lifespan either. You can end up releasing a game that's 20 years old and still get a ton of sales on it. We see GOG, for example, get a bunch of sales on all these older games, and it's absolutely fantastic because people want to play those. People that are not just nostalgic about it. It's not like, oh, I played this as a kid, so I want to play it as an adult. No, these are people that have never picked it up before and are playing it for the very first time, and I think that's fantastic. And I really hope that this ends up being a positive push in the future. Nihon Falcom, doesn't surprise me that they're releasing games on PC. They've been doing it for a while. They kind of shifted away from it because basically that's just how the market works, and they are a small developer. I completely understand that. They don't have the funds to, release everything on PC and console at the same time. They have to make choices, and where most of their sales are going to come from in their main market, Japan, is going to be on console. And so basically that's where they're going to want to release their games. However, it is actually really, really cool to actually see them being like, hey, we actually have a nice user base on PC, and it's only growing. And so hopefully in the future, we end up seeing all their titles on PC, which, according to the statement, we will, which is super freaking awesome. And I'm really, really excited for it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this one. You can also end up subscribing for the other types of stuff. The game in the background has been Xanadu Next, which is one of Falcom's games. It was published by Xseed in the US on PC recently. It was originally released on PC in 2015, I think, and they re-released it about half a year ago on PC, and it's fully localized now and everything. And it was originally exclusive to Japan. This guy is flying, and I ran out of spells because I was wasting them because basically I am playing terribly in the background. I'm almost dead too. I could use one of my potions, but I kind of don't want to. I'd rather just escape. But yeah, it's actually a fantastic game. It's a nice little action game. It kind of has some really terrible camera problems, I would say. Like, the camera is kind of annoying. It takes some getting used to. Now I'm just going backwards. I have no idea where I'm going. I am completely lost. I probably had to do that puzzle room. I haven't played it in a while, but I'm like near the end of the game and I kind of want to finish it up. But at the same time, the last time I played it, I got to a certain room and it crashed and I was like, no! And this never went back to it because I got really, really busy. And then when I came back to it, I got completely lost on what I was supposed to do. And now I have no clue what I'm doing. So now I'm just walking in circles and probably going to die in this room. But regardless, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your comments below as well. Are there any other Japanese publishers you're really excited to see jumping on PC? Because it seems like all of them at some point are going to be on PC. And I think that's the way that most developers are going. It seems like the English sort of developer base has been kind of doing that as well, to where they're like, you know what, we're going to end up being on PC as well. And we're seeing the PC kind of pick up more and more games. This has been a steady increase for years now. And so it's no surprise that people are moving to PC. That's not the news here. The news here is the fact that they're actually moving back to PC, and they're actually looking at it and being like, oh, hey, we're actually able to sell their old titles, which is something that I don't see developers talk about a lot and publishers talk about a lot. It's like old games. For example, Sega releases, Sonic the Hedgehog. That game still gets sales. You can look at the Steam charts. They still sell that game. It's hell old. It came out on the Sega Genesis. And yeah, I also did a showcase of that one. Anyways, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. I don't know how to end videos anymore. See you guys in the next video.